Hey everybody, so just here to talk to you about saving up for a comfortable future. Part of that, in order to save up for a comfortable future, don't worry about what other people think of you. Don't worry about what they think of the car you drive or the clothes you wear, whatever. Because if you worry about what other people think and you're trying to impress them too much, you're never going to be saving. You're never going to have a comfortable future because you're going to be always, trying to live beyond your means. So, you have to think about it this way. First of all, how many people are you trying to impress? How many people do you really know? You might know a couple dozen people at work and some other people outside of work, and do you really need to impress those 30 or 40 people? Because it's costing you your future. Think of it this way, 10 years from now, is anybody going to care what kind of car you drove or what you wore or any of that? No, not a single person is going to care or remember, so it doesn't matter. So just concentrate on living below your means and saving and investing for the future. And you don't have to take radical steps, but just live below your means. Just buy what you need and not what you want. You got to sacrifice before you enjoy. Now on the topic of a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage on a house, let's say you buy a $300,000 house. This is just an example. I know that's a little too pricey for a lot of people out there, but this is just an example. Now let's say you put down a 3.5% down payment through an FHA mortgage. So you're putting down $10,500, which means you're going to have a loan of $289,500. That loan is that you're going to have payments of $1,488 a month. Now, since you put down less than 20%, you're going to have private mortgage insurance, and that is going to amount to basically $140 a month of that mortgage. Now, let's say you put $60,000 down. Again, I know that's a lot, but let's say you're married, you and your spouse, you don't have kids yet, you're working hard. You can, over time, you can come up with that money if you sacrifice enough over a certain amount of time. But let's just say you can come up with $60,000, put it down, then you have a $240,000 loan. Now you don't have to have the private mortgage insurance, and also since the loan is smaller, you're instead of $1,488 a month on the $289,000 loan, this loan you have a payment of $1,118 a month. That's $370 less. Now, let's say you take that $370 a month that you have extra, and you invest it into a mutual fund or an index fund. That's let's say over years and years it gains 7.5% a year. That is. Now, the first 9 years you're gonna, and the reason I'm saying 9 years is because if you did the first loan, the FHA loan, and had the private mortgage insurance, that private mortgage insurance is going to be, you're going to be paying that for 9 years until you reach the threshold where you own 20%, where 20% of the home is paid off. So, and then you can get rid of the mortgage insurance. So the first 9 years that you put that $370 a month that you're saving, you put it in that mutual fund, you're going to have about $56,800 at the end of 9 years. Now, let's say you keep investing that much, and over 30 years you're going to have $498,000, because it's compounding. You're putting money in, but the money you've already put in is compounding, so it's growing. It's mushroom, like a mushroom. Now, then to show what you would actually be gaining an advantage, after 9 years in the bigger loan, your payment would go down by $139 and $140 a month, because you get rid of the private mortgage insurance. So then you just have a $230 difference, but in other words, if you put down the 20%, 60 grand, for that $1,100 a month mortgage, you're still paying $230 less than the person that did the FHA loan, and yes, they got rid of their mortgage insurance after 9 years, but their payment is still $1,348 a month versus $1,118 a month. So let's say you're just putting in the difference of $230 a month. You're still, in 30 years, that mutual fund or index fund is going to grow to $413,000. So, well over $400,000 difference. Now let's look at some other expenses in life. Let's say you go out once every weekend, year round, we'll just say, and you spend an average of $50 every weekend, which is kind of conservative. That's $2,600 a year. And again, let's say you start investing that $50 a week instead of buying drinks. You're investing it. In 10 years, you have $38,683. And then in 30 years, you'll have just under $300,000. Now, let's say lunch. Let's say normally every day for lunch you do takeout, fast food, you go to Chipotle or whatever, you spend an average of $10. But let's say you start taking your lunch to work, and it costs you an average of $5 by the time you put the ingredients in. So you're saving $5 a day, and let's say you get 4 weeks of vacation every year, so you're working 48 weeks, 5 days a week. That's 240 days. That's 12, times $5 a day. That's $1,200 a year. Again, if you start investing that $5 a day into that mutual fund that earns 7.5%, over 30 years, that's $124,000. Now, let's say you're going to buy a car. Instead of trying to impress people with the $30,000 car, you buy the $20,000 car. It's still a good car. It's brand new, but it's a small, compact car. But just think of all the money you'll save in gas over the years. But anyways, that $10,000 you saved by buying the cheaper car, again, if you invested that into the fund, let's say your car lasts 15 years. Over 15 years, that $10,000 will grow to $29,588. Now, let's say again, at the end of 15 years, you have to buy another car, but you buy the cheaper model again to save $10,000 again. So you put that in the fund, and with the other $29,000. So over 30 years, you'll have amassed over $87,000 by buying the cheaper car each time you buy a car. Now, I know this would be radical, but a lot of people have told me how expensive cable TV is and how you have to buy all these packages even though you only want 3 channels. Let's say you cut that. Let's say it costs $100 a month and you cut that. Over 30 years, you invest that instead into the fund, you'll have $134,745. Now, so you add up all these different figures, and it comes out to $1,083,000 in 30 years. Now, again, you'll be also putting away in your 401k. So you'll actually have a bigger pool of money in the 401k, 2.5, 3 million maybe. So the point of this isn't, oh yeah, you should cut your cable TV, you know, that might be radical. But the point is showing you all these little expenses, like buying drinks every Saturday night. All these little expenses add up into six figures, and then you add up all these different sectors of savings, and you're a millionaire. While the person that you are trying to impress, they're always trying to impress other people too, and they, I guarantee you, are not going to end up a millionaire or a multimillionaire, because they're always trying to worry about impressing people, and they're living in debt, they're living on credit. And this doesn't just go for average people, you know, wealthy people too. If you buy a $15,000 Rolex today, but instead you buy a a little sports watch from a sports shop and invest that 15 grand at 7.5%, in 30 years you have $131,000. Let's say you buy a $120,000 Porsche today. Well, if you invested that money instead, in 30 years you'll have over $1 million. Now again, I'm not trying to take out all the fun in life, just showing people what they're really spending on something. And again, if you're worth millions of dollars, go ahead and buy that watch and that car. You worked hard, you know, it's cool, you're going to be fine. You don't have to worry. You were very responsible, and you know how to handle money, and you're going to be just fine. And one fun example I like to point out, Mike Tyson. I saw him in an interview. He says he spends $40,000 a month on marijuana. Now, if he took that money instead and invested it, and it earned an average of 7.5% a year, in 30 years he would have $54 million. But that's okay. I mean, Don King ripped him off more than that anyway, so if that's what makes him happy, that's fine. Now, I'll point out a former football player for the Denver Broncos named Vance Johnson. It just boggles my mind how these athletes can make so much money and then just blow it all and end up broke. Now, Vance Johnson played for 11 years from 1985 till 1995. Now, he didn't make, he only made a fraction of what they made today, but he did very well for himself. He made good salaries back in those 11 years, but he didn't handle it well. He ended up broke and over $1 million in debt. Not trying to rag on him. He's turned his life around. He's doing well today, it appears. But I'll just tell you what he made during his career in football salary, not including any, he got some endorsements, but, and this doesn't include any bonuses like going to 3 Super Bowls. But now the first 4 years of his career, I estimate he averaged $250,000 a year. We'll just say that, just as an estimate. I'm not really certain how accurate that is, but it's roughly, that would be about right. Then I do remember in my head, from memory, his 5th and 6th year, he signed a 2-year deal for $1 million. That's $500,000 a year. Then years 7, 8, and 9, he had a 3-year deal for $1.95 million. So that's $650,000 a year. His 10th year, he signed a 2-year contract with the San Diego Chargers. But he got cut after training camp. He only had 2 catches in 1 game, and he got cut, so he never played for them. And he didn't play that 10th year. But his signing bonus with the Chargers was $850,000. So that was the highest paid year of his career. He got $850,000 from the Chargers. And then he came back for an 11th year with the Broncos at $300,000. Now let me tell you what he could have done if he had started putting this money away responsibly. And let's say he invested this money in a mutual fund, and it gained an average of 7% a year. Now, let's say he put, okay, so over 11 years, let's say he put, I'm going to be, this is something he could have easily done. In years 1 through 4, when he made $250,000 a year, he could have put $50,000 a year away in that mutual fund. And at the end of 4 years, he'd have $221,997. Then in years 5 through 6, when he's making $500,000 a year, he could easily put $100,000 a year into that fund. And then at the end of that 6th year in the league, he would have $461,000. Then in years 7 through 9, when he's making $650,000 a year, he could put $150,000 a year into that fund. And then by the end of that 9th year, he would have $1,047,000 in there. Then in year 10, when he got that $850,000 bonus, and again, I know there's taxes, agents cuts, so that gets cut down dramatically. But still, in the year when he made $850,000, let's say taxes and his agents cut took half of that. That left him with $425,000. You could still easily take $250,000 and invest it. That still leaves him with $175,000 after taxes. Okay, so by this time he should have a home. His house should be paid for clear. And remember, these are in $85 to $95, so houses were much cheaper back then. But okay, so in year 10 he puts $250,000 in, and then he has $1,387,000 at the end of that year. And then when he came back for that final year, he could put $100,000 in, and then by the end of his career in 1995, he would have $1,592,000 invested in that mutual fund. And that's from investing $1.2 million total out of a total income of $5.1 million. Again, I know there's taxes and agents cuts, but still, let's say he lost half of that money to the taxes and agents cuts. That leaves him with $2.6 million, and he invested $1.2 million. So over 11 years, he still had $1.4 million to live off of. $400,000 could pay for a very nice house back in the late 80s, and then that'll leave him with $1 million, that he saved up. So now, again, at the end of his career, let's say he has that $1,592,000 and never added another dollar to it. Today, in year 2020, he would have $8.6 million. Now, I would invest more than that, and you could still, what I would invest, I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but I would end up with $13.5 million. But still, he could have easily done that. The figures I just mentioned, when you're making $650,000 and putting, even if taxes and agents cut it down to $350,000, you could still take $150,000, put it in the investment fund, and still have $200,000 left over. By then his house certainly would have been paid for. But again, well, he did have kids from 5 women. 2 of the women, well, he married at least one, so he had alimony and child support. And I remember distinctly in my mind, one child support he had to settle for $180,000. That was in a year when he was making $500,000. So, that kind of took a lot out of him. But still, this is just an example of what these guys could do to set themselves up. He could have that $8.6 million today. He could be doing whatever he wants, not worrying about, he's probably still in debt. So that's just an example. I'm rambling on at this point, but I'm just showing you how money compounds itself. Even saving $5 every workday for lunch, when you bring in your own lunch as opposed to buying your own lunch, adds up to $1,200 a year. And then the figure, let's see what the figure on the lunch was. Yeah, right here, the lunch, over 30 years, $124,000. So again, this is just, don't worry about what people think of you, because someday you're going to be better off than them. While they're still struggling, working with a boss, trying to make payments on this and that, you're going to be posting pictures on Facebook of your trip to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, or your hiking trip in New Zealand, while they're struggling. So don't worry about what people think. Just save and invest. Pour as much as you can into your 401k. That's the best investment vehicle you have because it's pre-tax. Yes, you'll get tax on it someday, but it's pre-tax now. That allows it to compound at a greater rate. So that's pretty much what I have for now, and talk to you later.